The lesson we'll be talking about today is on operations with functions, which all we're going to learn how to do today is how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide using different functions, as well as working with function notation. You will also later in the video be learning how to insert values using function notation, as well as multiply values using function notation. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is adding and subtracting two functions, which the notation we'll be using looks like this. So this notation right here is pronounced the f plus g of x, which there is a much easier way to interpret this. This simply means you're going to be adding f of x to g of x. Okay, this does not mean you multiply f plus g times x. A lot of people mix that up. Basically what's happened is x has been multiplied in to f of x and g of x, but you're just adding them together. Same thing with this notation when we subtract. This is pronounced the f minus g of x, which again, I believe it's much easier interpreted as f of x minus g of x. So in one case you'll be adding the two functions together, and in another case you'll be subtracting the two functions together. So I recommend that you pause the video at this time so you can watch the video on how to add these two functions together and subtract these two functions together. This will be your first example problem. The funsy we'll be doing later on in class. The next thing we'll be talking about is multiplying and dividing two functions, which the function notation looks like this, which this first case, this means the f times g of x, which again, it can be rewritten in a different way, which I think is easier to interpret as f of x times g of x. So in this notation, all you're going to do is multiply your first function to your second function. Now the next notation is called the f divided by g of x, which all that means is you're going to take your first function, f of x, and divide it by your second function, g of x. Now would be a good time to pause this video so you can learn how to multiply and divide these two functions together in example problem 2. The next thing we're going to be learning today is how to use function notation. So all function notation is when we use f of x, which f of x is just another way to write y. It's just another way for y. We don't actually do anything with this notation. It's just a way to represent y. So like if we look down here, this could be y equals 2x squared minus x plus 5. But the reason why we use function notation is because it's easy to decide how we insert values in for x. So in these first three examples that you're going to be working in example 3, okay, you will learn how to insert in different values into this lovely function here, which in part A you'll be inserting in -2 for all your x's. In part B, you'll be inserting in -3x into all your x's in the function. And in part C, you'll be learning how to insert x plus 1 in for all your x's. Just that one's going to be a fun time. So go ahead and pause this video so you can start working on example 3. So if you saw from the previous video, be careful. A plus b quantity squared does not mean a squared plus b squared, which Batman got really mad at Robin and smacked him upside his head, because you guys should know better than that. Don't ever do that. Okay, the demon cats will come for you if you try to do this, so watch out. The proper way, if you ever see a binomial, which is when you have two things added together and they're raised to the second power, always rewrite that as two numbers multiplied together. So when something's squared, it means you multiply it to itself. And from here, you just distribute. So be careful. Don't do this. This is what the demon cats will tempt you into doing. Do this. The last thing you'll be doing, this is still going to be off of example 3. It'll just be a little different. Now you're going to learn how to multiply a number to a function using function notation. So in part D of example 3, you're going to learn how to multiply 3 to this function up here. So go ahead and pause the video and learn how to do that.